Welcome back to Light Talk, where the paranormal and the supernatural is a part of our everyday lives. If you have a story you would like to share, email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com. And we're going to go ahead and get started today. Let's welcome our guest. So we're just going to start in because he's got lots to say. So welcome to the show and tell us about yourself.
All right. A lot of my work, I've done numerous shows. I've have done even a couple television, YouTube, quite a few YouTubes and radio shows, and a couple television shows. I do a lot on myself and my personal experiences, but my greatest area of research is questioning and talking to people all over the world that are having abduction experiences. And one thing I've been able to say is there's no such thing as a typical abduction experience. Every single celestial or ET involved has their own means of communication and connecting. So when I hear somebody say, "Oh, that doesn't sound like an abduction," I don't think they know what they're talking about, because every single phenomena is involved in abductions, from physical apparitions as solid as you and me forming in a room to vehicles being lifted up into the bottoms of ships. So there is no specific kind of abduction. They're all very unique by many, many different species. At first, I thought there was 12 different species, and then I found that was just a small part of many. And the grays are probably the most predominant.
And we talked earlier about the grays and how they're so kind of different in how they abduct. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, the grays, and I've heard this over and over, they'll appear in your bedroom and they'll take the sheets off of you, and and I've heard them coming through windows, coming through walls. In my experiences, they were coming through the back door. So they're able to pass through solid objects. So when they're visiting, I tried to set up cameras to photograph the grays, but I was unsuccessful to get any photographing of them. One, they had me move the cameras before they arrived unconsciously. Most all of my experiences with the grays are unconscious. I don't have conscious memory, except for as a child growing up, waking up on their tables. And the grays have done a lot of surgery on me. The grays surgery has been with the least amount of discomfort. They have worked on my hands. They have worked on my back. They have worked on numerous parts of me. And as a child, I would wake up on a table and they would take my arm off. And it was traumatic as a child. So I would just close my eyes and go back to sleep. There was one conscious memory I had where they had a woman breastfeeding a hybrid baby, and they wanted me to fan her, and they wanted me conscious for that abduction, because the first thing I did is I tried to run away, and I don't know where I ended up or where I was, but I ended up running into a tunnel. And then they followed me into the tunnel, and then they brought me back to where the woman was breastfeeding the hybrid child. They were very interested in me seeing her breastfeeding their hybrid.
Why do you think that's so?
I think they were showing assimilation of their culture with our culture. They wanted me to see uh, they wanted me to see a human being breastfeeding a child. In many of the interviews I did, a lot of the people that were introduced to their gray hybrids were terrified. They said, "Get that thing away from me. I'll kill it." So they wanted nothing to do. So the grays, in many times, tried to introduce the mothers to their babies. In probably a small majority of them were able to greet the child and hold the child, but most of them were terrified of the child and didn't want anything to do with the child, and so they terminated the meeting. But I ran
Wow.
into several that held the child, and some that even continued to see the child on other visitations. I don't understand a lot with the grays. I don't understand how they get us from one place to another. They did a lot of the procedures on my partners. They did them in the ship, or that's what it appeared to be, a ship. In the regression, a ship would appear, and then they'd come to the car. They'd remove us from the car and bring us into the ship.
So what did it look like on the inside of the ship?
This I found confusing because the ship looked smaller uh, on the outside and looked larger once I was inside. So it could have been that I was looking at the ship from a distance. The ship usually had a main room or the control room, and then it had what seemed to be rooms off the back, or a room off the back, and they did the procedures in that room off the back. The And of course, I assumed I was in a ship in these regressions, or I could have been teleported to somewhere else. I don't know. But the ship also changed. A wall became a door. There were things I could hear voices through the walls. The 16-hour missing time was with me and a young woman, and they found something in her head, a cerebral implant that was placed when she was 6 in her head. And the MK Ultra projects became, the government used people from these projects, and these projects came out of the concentration camps. A lot of people think Germany was just torturing, killing Jews or the different nationalities that were put in them, but they were actually experimenting on them. And the Allies, France, England, Russia, US, grabbed all the data from these experiments that were done in the concentration camps. And then the CIA continued some of the same experiments that the Germans were doing during World War II. But one of the experiments they did was testing for physical endurance, pain levels before unconsciousness. These are horrible experiments. Putting a person in cold water up to their waist, and then observing them and taking notes on what happens to them. This never made the history, and the CIA's continuation, France's continuation, England's continuation, and Russia's continuation of these experiments were all done under top secret and never released to the citizens of the countries. Uh, the the MK Ultra also, they created personalities with these programs. They would train, they would use the trauma to bring about a dissociation or a disconnect from the host personality. They would expose the host personality to atrocities that the consciousness couldn't accept. That would start what they called the splitting process. And then in the splitting process, another personality would develop. We always maintain consciousness, it's just whether we have memory of it or not. So then they would train the other personality that developed, and they would program that personality. And with the MK Ultra dissociative personalities created, these personalities were able to withstand 10 times the level of pain. They were able to withstand torture. They were like Supermen. And so then they would use they would trigger these personalities. They can trigger them with a phone call, with a particular ring on the phone call, but they had triggers. And some of the triggers were actually used in, were used with television programs. Walt Disney had triggers in some of its cartoons. And so if they wanted a person to do a particular assignment, they would trigger the new personality, and then they would have the person complete the mission with the new personality. With the new personality, they could have the person kill. They used them as assassins. They used them as information couriers. And this is all being done by the US CIA and the military, the intelligence of other countries. They used hypnosis I became introduced at Boston Children's Hospital to the MK Ultra projects. These projects were done in public schools. They were done in Harvard and Yale participated in the project I was involved in. And what they did is they brought me into a doctor's office, and then they hooked an IV to my arm. So they used drugs to further induce the hypnotic state. And then they would have me do procedures to a child that they'd bring into the room. And this was done again at Boston Children's Hospitals, where a lot of these were being done.
Yikes.
And so and the parents in many cases had no understanding what was being done to the children. In some cases, the children would tell the parents what happened. The parents would tell them it's their imagination. It's not true. It's not correct. Military was a particularly easy group they can get at, because once in the military facility, the child goes to a military school, they could pretty much dissociate the child, train the child, and then return the child back. The child goes back home, knows nothing of what has happened. Parents know nothing of what has happened. So with my partner, she was also part of the MK Ultra projects, and they were doing what they called I'm trying to remember the name of the project. The Monarch Projects was one name of a project. With the Monarch Projects, they would take the children and they would implant implants connected to the brainstem. These were done in late 50s, early 60s. And they were a failure for the most part. What the purpose of the implant was to do, whether the implant was able to trigger a separation of personalities. But in many of the cases, the implants caused horrible convulsions. And my partner, who was assigned to me by the military without my knowledge, I thought she was a girlfriend. I didn't realize she was an informant. She would have these horrible convulsions. And that brought on the abduction by the Greys, in which they evaluated, took her apart in the 16-hour missing time period, and showed me the implant in her head connected to the brain stem. It was about the size of my thumb, black with a yellow stripe, and it connected right straight through the center of her brain. The Greys' medical practices are way beyond anything I could understand. They could disassemble a body, reassemble a body, and then that body will be totally conscious afterwards. So after she had the convulsions, the Greys had interest into why she had the convulsions. So it was either the next day or the day after she had the convulsions that our 16-hour abduction occurred. And when the Greys take you, or when there's many ways they take us, but in this particular case, all I know is I picked her up at 10 a.m. in the morning, and next I know it was 2 p.m. at night and dark. And so 16 hours passed. It was daytime when we were headed to the beach, and then we awakened at 2 p.m. So that was probably the most traumatic of all my experiences, was with that 16-hour, them disassembling her. So it took 2 years of hypnotists to be able to bring back that recollection.
So you feel that they're working very closely with the government then, in
the
controlling
Greys,
us?
the MK Ultra project, the Greys seemed to have curiosity of. They were not working in conjunction with the military on that. They were curious on the procedure because they didn't understand the procedure. So when they took her apart and showed me it, they wanted to know, what did I know about that thing in her head? And of course, I knew nothing about the thing in her head. I wouldn't get this regression for 36 years, for about 36, 38 years later. So we tried MUFON. I had a lot of mixed situations with, because MUFON had some tactics that I didn't like. For example, interviewing my hypnotist without my permission. And the different MUFONs were government controlled. So depending on the state that you were involved in, depended on who was running the organization, whether it was somebody from the government or whether it was somebody from a normal researcher. So a lot of the MUFONs were not safe to get involved with. A lot of them were hiding information, not releasing information. The MUFON I dealt with was out at Leominster, Mass, and they were very deceptive. And they promised, because no matter how you do the abduction phenomena, PTS is a major part of it. And of course, PTS plays a role in not having memory.
Yeah.
Now, the Pleiadians are very different. Some people are abducted by several groups of celestials. The Pleiadians, in their abductions, created the personalities, or I don't know, in their communication with me, which was telepathic, they always told me, you have memory, you don't have memory, but it's you. Which was kind of a strange perception on
Yeah.
because I would have an abduction with the Pleiadians. They were taking many of us to classes. They'd take us from our bedrooms at night to classes, and they would appear dreamlike. And because of the awareness state or other things I don't fully understand, but many people confuse the Pleiadian experiences as dreams. Uh, and the Pleiadians did classes at night with us.
Do you think they did that so that you wouldn't be scared, that it would be more of a gentle way of connecting with you?
I wanted consciousness. I wanted full consciousness when I was with the Pleiadians. So I was working with hypnosis to get full consciousness, but all I could get was partial awareness, partial consciousness. And then their answer was, it's you, but you without memory. You would do anything that you would normally do, but you wouldn't have memory, was how they explained it to me. The classes, they taught us physics, they taught us mathematics, they taught us, but not the mathematical system that we have, and not the physics. And we would have consciousness during the episode doing the formulas, but as we became more conscious, we couldn't do the formulas. So I had a lot of consciousness with the plating experiences, but not complete, sporadic.
Right. Kind of in and out.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the military also abducted me. And the military did surgical procedures on me in my abductions. On several of them, I woke up to end up in an emergency room because the pain. When I had an incident where ribs were broken, and it would take over 30 hours of surgery to put those ribs back together. And I included this in the book. I included the x-rays of the fractured ribs that I awakened with. The military, my friend was also abducted by the military. And both of us we had the same abductees. We had the military, we had the Greys, and we had the Pleiadians. And then we can also speak with the Pleiadians and ask them questions in the daytime. Right. So that's why when I was talking about those images, I was saying if people want to understand what's going on with the ETs, what they need to do is channel, get into a meditative state, ask a question, and then repeat the answer. And that was a safe way versus Greer. I'm trying to remember, was it James? Oh, why can't I remember?
Steve.
Greer's first name.
Stephen Greer.
Stephen Greer, yeah. Stephen Greer was into having people contact the ETs personally. Go out in a field, go out somewhere and ask to be abducted. I don't know what group he was dealing with. I don't know if he was dealing with the reptilians. I don't know what group he was dealing with, but the reptilians are very frightening, and I've interviewed several people having experiences with the reptilians, and the reptilians are into fear, generating fear, pain, discomfort, and I was unable to find relief for these people that were subject to the reptilian abductions.
Mm-hmm.
But the best thing was passive resistance, not not letting them frighten you. But there's this one woman that was having horrible experiences with them, and they were tormenting her in her abductions with them. The
Yeah,
Pleiadians, what? Go ahead.
that's pretty crazy. Why would the difference be? I mean, I know there's some good and bad out there, but yeah, how does it differ? I mean, why would it differ between one being from the other?
Well, it's interesting. Well, they have different motives. The reptilians have been around forever, and just as our society uses fear, specifically in its commercials, they create all your doubts. The reptilians use fear to control. I don't want to get into so fear is a very controlling emotion, and our media is loaded with generating fear.
Yeah.
So the reptilians also have connections with oh, there's some that say the reptilians are connected with the Masons. The
I've
upper
heard that.
levels, the upper levels of the Masons, they get to fly in a craft with the reptilians. Uh, there was an attempted settlement on the moon. And I'm not sure which group. I was believing it was the reptilians, but they took people to the moon, abandoned them, and left them there. And some of the reasons man landed on the moon with NASA, a lot of people question it. But what NASA had to do was scrub the pictures because there was debris on the moon, and that they would have no way of explaining. So if you look at some of the NASA pictures, uh, they have this diagram where it shows the frames of you'll find they have like squares showing the frame and what part of the picture. And on some of them, you'll see those squares missing because the picture has been dubbed. So the NASA landings, they didn't want the backdrop in the NASA photographs. So
I've heard that those pictures that they are showing weren't really on the moon. I've heard that they were
yeah, some of them
staged.
weren't. Uh, they were done, and it was funny. One of the James Bond movies takes off on that, of him going through a moon landing video. But they had to substitute the pictures. So the other question is, who was holding the camera when the person steps out of the capsule and steps on the moon? Is like, who was taking that picture of the first steps on the moon? So there was a lot of, they did make an attempted landing on the moon. They did make a landing on the moon, but they couldn't have, they had to do a lot of dubbing on that landing. On one picture, it shows the Earth on the wrong side of the moon.
Oh.
So, and then there's some questions. According to Armstrong, he drew a picture. When they landed on the moon, there was ships landed around them, other alien ships surrounding them. He drew sketches of it, of what was of the perimeters to their ship and the other ships around them.
Oh,
So
wow.
the moon landing was being watched by the ETs as well as by us.
I believe that.
And the moon is not natural. Uh, the moon, the rocks that were returned from the moon were uranium-235. Some of the rocks that were returned. Uranium-235 is not a natural element. Uranium-235 comes from a reactor. So there's some belief that the moon is older than the Earth. So the moon never came from the Earth. And historically, there's been documentation historically of the moon disappearing from the skies, but this goes way back. The moon leaving and then returning, being gone for, and this is recorded by ancient history, where the moon is there and then the moon isn't there for a period of time. But there's a lot of belief that the moon is made out of titanium, because when they were taking off from the moon, one of the parts from the ship fell, and when it hit the moon, it put a vibration that went through the whole moon, which had them believing the moon was a solid object. So there's a lot of questions on the moon being an actual moon.
And then you hear people saying that there's beings that are living inside the moon
Yeah,
or underneath mountains and stuff like that.
actually, I believe they're living inside the moon. And that's where the reactor is that produced the uranium-235. And those were discarded. It was used uranium. So I believe it's some form of a nuclear reactor, which is ancient. Which is ancient technology, because the reactors are not. I don't, of course, know. I had one conscious abduction of being in a massive ship, and they were having us dress into robes in that ship, and in the center of the ship was machinery, massive machinery. I've described the ship as being good 300 feet across in the inside, and it had a circular balcony that went around the mechanics of the ship, and there were like a giant walkway that encircled the perimeter of the ship in the inside, and we were standing on those, getting into the gowns they wanted us to get into. Now in that abduction, they came into my room, and then they paralyzed me, and then they took me out of the room. And paralysis, I've heard many people describing the paralysis, and of course there's a scientific explanation that, but the more you resist with the paralysis, the worse it gets. There was one person who explained, who the Greys were explaining how for him not to be paralyzed. And they explained to him the more he resisted, the more he became paralyzed. So what they explained to him was how to relax. And in his relaxation, the paralysis went away.
Interesting. Because when I had my experience with the ETs in my room, they did paralyze me.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I keep hearing the scientific explanation, sleep paralysis, but I was paralyzed numerous times, and it's somewhat frightening. Uh, and often they did it before they took me. And one time when they returned me, a woman came, uh, and she wanted me to be awake when she came into my bedroom. So she put something that felt like a needle in my foot, and that awakened me. So I awakened to find myself paralyzed. And then another young man, or he looked like a young man, came in with a triangular solid light. It came from his waist and protruded to the ceiling like a cone. They placed that light on me to teleport me out of a window. Uh,
Wow.
and so the technologies totally defy. Now remember as an infant being for some reason this is a clear memory of there's a light that they teleport you with, and the light has solid objects in it. Uh, it's almost the best way I can describe it uh, is light with large dust particles, or what seems like dust particles, and they kind of glisten, and they kind of they're like particles bigger than sand, and that seems to be part of the light that they teleport with. It's almost like a solid light.
So would that be like some sort of like, I don't know, gas or some sort of chemical that helps that portate
I it's
that
it's
motion?
that it's definitely a light.
Okay.
Uh, I don't understand the suspended particles in the light, but the suspended particles in the light seem to play a role in the teleportation with the light.
Hmm. Interesting. Wow. So do you was did it feel like that there was some texture with that? It sounds like there was some texture, or was it like clear or see through, but yet
I didn't
an
feel any
object?
texture. It was just simple. I didn't have much consciousness in the teleportation. I had some regression that brought it back, but it just seemed to be, uh, it just lifted us up. The abduction in Wenham, Mass. That was witnessed, uh, we they they I had a personality with the Greys that would take over during the abduction experiences, and so I would black out, and then he would take over. And so he was the one that went through the teleportations. He was the one that, uh, and in uh, there was no sensation to the teleportation that I can remember. It was just being lifted. Now I've talked to many people who describe being dropped through their roofs, coming through the roofs of their houses to land in their beds. Uh, and it seems like there's a big hole in the roof that they come through and then they land in their bed.
Huh. Just like it would be if someone was like you taken out of the window, it just opens up, kind of like opening up a portal or something like that.
It's got to be connecting to a portal. When the one that I remember was they put the cone on me in the bed, the broad side of the cone, and then it seemed like the narrow part of of the cone was at the window.
Hmm.
And but I don't, but
Interesting.
there seemed to be no physical sensations in the process. The
Huh.
only really physical
Do you,
sensation
oh,
was the paralysis.
interesting. Do you feel like you went smaller as the light went smaller, or you stayed the same size?
All I remember is the cone. The cone was placed on me. I don't remember the sensation of becoming smaller.
Okay.
But with interdimensional, one thing that I seem to be common with the ship's abductions was it seemed like the ship was bigger inside than it was when I saw it from the outside.
That's kind of what I imagine when people are talking about it, that it seems like it's much bigger on the outside. Like it's the size from the outside is really deceived in what it seems like on the inside.
There was one sighting, there's one abduction that I remember. I remembered uh, it was late at night, and this is in 72, 73. My sister, and this is something that's interesting with the abductions, they don't wake up everybody in the room. Certain people are awakened. And in this particular one, my sister came into the room, into our bedroom from her bedroom. And she was saying, there's a UFO outside. There's a UFO outside. And she was shaking my brother to wake him up. You got to see this. There's a UFO outside. There's a UFO outside. And no matter how she shook and yelled at my brother, he did not wake up. But she woke me up. And I was in the bunk above him. So I was like, I got to see this. So I followed her down the hallway to her bedroom, and I could see the ship. Uh, it was, God, it was some 500, some 500 yards from the window. And as I was looking at the ship, it had round windows on it. I'm assuming it was a gray ship. And the room was pink. And so I'm standing in the center of her room and she's pointing it out. And then she tells me about the dream she had where little men were cutting holes in the glass window. Now, screen
Really?
memories are a particular thing that I'll get into after this because the screen memories can make you totally not know what is going on because what the Greys can do, they can implant memories to replace what has happened. So I stood there looking at the ship, and I could not understand why the room was pink. So it had to have been emanating a light through the window into the room to turn it pink. Now, when I told the story to others, I described the ship leaving, but actually I never saw the ship leaving. I never remember returning back to my bed after the room was pink. I remember looking out the window, seeing it, trying to figure out why is the room pink. Now my other sister in the bedroom my sister was in, she was
Mhm.
sound asleep, unaffected. And that seems to be quite common. When they abducted, in most of my abductions, there was somebody else in the bed. And that person would always remain undisturbed. Uh, Now with screen memories, uh, the once I picked up this young woman, we were going to go to a movie, and we didn't know what movie we were going to. We drove to the movie theater. We saw Blazing Saddles was playing, so we decided, okay, we'll watch Blazing Saddles. Except Blazing Saddles wasn't playing for another hour and a half. So we went back down the dirt road that we were parked at. I always parked on dirt roads for privacy, uh, to talk, to have discussion, and to drink a beer, and also to smoke a joint. And this was in 1976. So, so we both, so they abducted us when we were parked on the dirt road, but they gave us the memory of going to the movie. And
Oh.
so the memory, we both had the same memory. So, and this is when the military had witnessed this abduction. So then the military questioned us afterwards, uh, uh, asking, because, they asked me, I said, oh, we saw a movie, we saw Blazing the Saddles and so forth. And then these are intelligence officers, and they questioned us separately. They questioned her at her, I believe, at her dormitory, and then they questioned me in the top secret facility. And it was a Northeastern University cooperative education job. I was working for the Department of Defense. So as they're asking me questions about the movie, I start to realize I don't know what the movie was about. So they're saying, tell us about the movie. Did you like the movie? And I could not remember the movie.
You just know you saw a movie.
I knew I saw a movie, but when they went into further detail, I couldn't remember the movie. And so they realized, of course, they had followed me into a dirt road in I believe it was Wenham, Mass. And then they watched me and the young woman getting out of the car, and then we were taken up by a ship that was hovering above the trees. So that's what was happening when we thought we were watching a movie.
Oh, wow.
So they asked the girl the same question, but I believe they told her what really happened, because she never went out with me again after that. So they had questioned her approximately 2 weeks afterwards, because I went out with her several times following the abduction. So both of us had the same memory that we had seen a movie,
And not
except
remember what the movie was.
we had no idea what the movie was about. So, and you'd think that would have made me suspicious. I just thought it was strange, but I didn't. At the time I was 22. I didn't think it was that unusual. But with screen memories, they replace the memory, and sometimes the screen memories come up in hypnosis, uh, or sometimes you get two memories of the same thing. One will be a screen memory. One will be another abduction that occurred, and we lost 4 hours swimming across a lake, three of us.
Wow.
And in that period of time, the girl should have drowned because she went into convulsions in the middle of the lake. And then what I got for memory made no sense. So I couldn't, we were a quarter of a mile, we had an eighth of a mile to about an eighth of a mile in the middle of the lake. And when she went into convulsions, I managed to get hold of her body, but I could not keep her head above the water. So I carried her with a cross-chest carry across the lake, with her head mostly under the water. So when I got to the shore, she was inert, dead, and water was coming out of her mouth. Next memory I get, she's screaming and yelling at me. And then I'm saying, you got to go to the hospital. And she's screaming and yelling because she doesn't want to go to the hospital.
Okay.
So there was a screen memory of me putting her on a rock pressing on her chest to get the water out of her
Uh-huh.
mouth, except there was no rock. So there was a scream memory of me. So the Greys must have resuscitated her, then returned us back to the beach that we came out of the water. So
Wow.
we lost 4 hours in swimming across that lake.
Do you think that's part of the Mandela effect?
Now, explain the Mandela?
The Mandela, to my understandings, it is a memory that didn't happen. For like when we were young, we had Roadrunner and those cartoons and all, and we remember something that actually never happened, or
Yeah,
something on a
that
box.
that's a phenomena that I think is associated with because I was going over some memories I had with my brothers watching a movie,
Mhm.
except and it was a very clear memory. We were watching this movie, The Outsiders, except the problem was the movie wasn't made at that time, that we had memory of watching it together.
Oh,
So I've
wow.
had memories that I've recalled that don't fit.
That'll mess you up.
And so that memory actually, because I thought the movie came out, I thought it was an old movie, but it wasn't that old. And I don't know if you remember the movie The Outsiders
Hmm. Yeah.
with I forget the lead actor in that,
Yeah, I don't
but
remember either, but yeah.
yeah, but so I had the memory of seeing the movie took place in the 70s, but the movie didn't come out until the 90s. So it's interesting. I think a lot of people, I think this may be prevalent with abductees, that we never question our memories. Uh, we just accept them. Uh, Now it was interesting. All the women, there was about a dozen women abducted with me in the course of 1975, 76, 77. There's about a dozen different women. Uh, Only three of them actually knew something was wrong.
Really?
None of them understood the missing time thing, that they had lost an hour.
Wow.
The 16
Yeah.
hour one, the 16-hour one, that was obvious. And that girl wouldn't even discuss it. Neither of us talked about it afterwards. I figured she wasn't going to go out with me again, but she was with the military. So, so she probably, I don't know what she knew or what she didn't know because I never got a chance to question her. She was shot, as I mentioned to you before, she was left for dead. Uh, and then she survived and she was put into a group home in protective custody. So I wanted to try to hook up with her. I wanted to try to connect with her. I even connected with her sister to try to connect with her. And because I wanted to find out what she knew and what she didn't know. Now, the
Right.
sister had also been abducted, and the sister knew a lot more than she would talk. Uh, because when I asked her about the ETs, she said, "I hate the ETs. I don't want to discuss them. I don't want to talk about them."
Oh, wow.
So she definitely had memory of
Hmm.
the ETs, but I couldn't get anything. She was in the abduction that when they took the car into the bottom of the ship,
Okay.
And that was a weird abduction. That abduction actually was the first abduction that came. All I know is when the hypnotist told me we weren't getting anywhere with the abductions with this particular hypnotist. All we got was, I don't remember, I don't know. And so she said, okay, we're going to do a pretend. We're going to pretend that you're in your boat. And so she put me into this imaginary of being in a boat, because I do boating. And then she said, who is the person sitting next to you? And that put me into the memory. And I said, Irene, but it shouldn't be Irene. Because because Nancy was the one that I had over a dozen abductions with. So, and had no memory of having an abduction with Irene. She was a homeless girl that I met in the military. So then suddenly we go into the full reality of what happened, and we're driving, and then I'm talking to the hypnotist about what's happening. We're driving my car down this dirt road, and we suddenly see this UFO. This is under hypnosis. And everybody in the car is like, oh, I've never seen a UFO before. I've never seen a UFO before. And then the UFO started drawing the car towards it. It was pulling the car. And when it started pulling the car, everybody went into terror. Everybody started screaming. So the hypnotist took me out of the screaming part. She says, we're watching this on a TV. We're watching this on a TV. Because everybody was terrified. Everybody was horrified.
Yeah. No, this is a joyride. This is what we do every night.
So suddenly all I remember is suddenly we're being lifted up. And then it's total darkness. So what had happened is the ship took the car up inside. And then it was total darkness. And then the two girls in the back seat, there was 4 people in the vehicle. Myself, Irene, and Nancy's, and the 2 sisters in the back seat. The sisters became silhouettes in the back seat and disappeared. And that's all that I remembered, was watching how they became like shadow silhouettes, and then they disappeared in the back of the car. And that was all that came on that memory. But there was another incident in New Hampshire where a vehicle was being pulled up into the bottom of a ship, and the cars that were watching it started blowing their horns, and the ship that was lifting the car dropped it. It landed and it broke it landed, they dropped it, so it landed on its wheels, breaking the carriage of the car. And but that's the only one I remember where they took the whole car.
Wow. So I don't know what happened with me, because one time I was driving from work to school because I got off early in the morning. So I was driving straight over to college, and I almost missed my turn. That's when I realized I was sleeping at the wheel, and I looked behind me and there was a cop behind me. So all I've been thinking, I must sleep or drive pretty good when I'm sleeping, you know?
Yeah, I
So
understand that. I understand that sensation, because in many of the abductions especially with the military agent or the woman, we were in a car, we were driving, and the next I know, hours later or an hour later, we're back in the car driving. So there was no stopping the car. There was no, everything happened while I was driving the car holding the steering wheel.
So what is your thought about that? I mean, I'm kind of looking at other drivers. What are they seeing in this situation? A car just appearing there, or a car driving with just a human and like like
Something has to happen. For what I know, on the beach, they froze everybody. So, and I don't know, the one on the beach was weird. I see what looks, I'm talking to this guy next to me, and out of the corner of my eye, it looks like people are coming out of the water with their clothes on. And they looked Spanish. So I ignored it. And then next I know, the woman that was with me, which was the agent, they had taken her, and they put people in a trance state when they take them. They mesmerize them. And they were leading her past the front of me. And then the guy I was talking to became incredibly silent. And then he was still. He wasn't moving. And I believe that period was approximately an hour to 2 hours that they took us. But they were able to remove us on a beach that had people on it.
So do you think I've seen videos where people will be walking and in mid-step they'll just like stop. And then a few minutes later they'll be continue walking like nothing happened. You think that's something that's happened to them?
They'll walk. That almost sounds like you, the observer, is experiencing missing time.
Oh, okay.
Uh, I can't figure. I saw this movie. It was they had cameras in a city, and somebody had taken the video from the camera in the city. There was a car driving, and the people were kind of vociferous. They were partying, and then the car disappeared in front of the camera. It just disappeared. And it gave me a weird sensation, like, was that car real? It's coming along, and then it just disappears. All four people in the car just disappeared. So, and then have you seen the videos of people disappearing?
I see. Yeah, I guess they are some
YouTube.
that come in and then disappear, or they'll just
They'll
show
be
up out of
walking.
nowhere. Yeah,
They'll be walking, or they'll be running, and then they might stop, and then they disappear.
yeah.
Uh, so I can't imagine what the onlookers are seeing, or how they mask what they see. Cars don't disappear, so they don't believe it. So I can't imagine what's happening to the people that are watching or observing. I know the ones on the beach, they were frozen. But how far, of course, the beach was somewhat isolated, so there wasn't visible to any cars. It was like, I think 6 to 10 people that were frozen. And then they took the girl and took me off the beach. But so it's the way the have you ever read anything by Dolores Claiborne?
Not Claiborne, huh?
Okay. Is there another Dolores? Maybe I got the last name.
Cannon?
Dolores Cannon. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Uh, Dolores Claiborne is actually a movie. Uh, but Dolores Cannon, she talks about multi dimensions.
Yeah.
And when she did her stuff on the Greys, she talked about them. The way she described it, they just take them and put them in another dimension.
Yeah.
And so, so, and she was describing how the Greys do it. She she explained it. You ought to read what she says. Have you ever read anything she said about abductions?
I haven't. I have listened to her a couple times, but I haven't read any of her books yet.
Yeah. Well, if you ever get anything on, she writes about the Greys abductions, and she says they just remove you to another dimension, is the way she put it.
Wow.
But it was interesting how, because she does do stuff on ETs, and I believe in her later stuff she does stuff on the abductions of the ETs, and she described it as multidimensional.
So, how do they bring a 3D person into a multiple or multi-dimensional? I mean, do they raise your vibration enough? They're raising your vibration enough to be able to leave and go to this other
Well,
dimension?
there's there was one that I couldn't understand. The guy was still smoking the same cigarette when he was returned. Uh,
Hmm. So they stop time.
they definitely the fact that they for him it seemed like they stopped time because he lost he remembers missing time, but he was smoking and so the clock showed missing time, and he was smoking the same cigarette he had started smoking. So I don't think there's a logical explanation for what the Greys are doing by our sciences. But because
Yeah.
uh, when they for one thing that came out of Hopkins, what is his name? Uh, he's not related to me. Bud Hopkins. Have you ever read anything from Bud Hopkins?
No, I haven't heard of him yet.
Okay, he does stuff. He has a book that's called Missing Time, and that book enlightened me to what I was experiencing because when I started, I was getting horrible flashbacks, and I could not make any sense of the flashbacks. I knew there were blackout periods, which I just ignored in '76 because there was nothing I could figure I can do with them. I'd be with a girl in a car, 45 minutes would disappear. I'd get her late home. I'd have no explanation what happened. And in most of the cases, the girl was unaware that time was missing. You're just sitting there talking, having a great time, and then you don't know that there's 45 minutes missing.
Yeah.
Uh, 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 so, so when Bud Hopkins says, he says, for the Greys to take somebody, they have to physically appear to take somebody, and then they disappear after they take the person, but they have to make a physical appearance with their ship. Now, the interesting thing about the physical appearance is it's picked up by radar.
Hmm.
So and there's another method that I couldn't that they so when the military satellite or a military satellite picks up a ship, by the time they respond, the ship is gone.
Yeah.
So I believe the and we had in one of the abduction that I call the lake event, there was a helicopter that responded, It flew around, and then because in the regression, which wasn't making much sense, I can see the approaching helicopter from what must have been in the ship. The helicopter came around and then flew away. So the helicopter was unable to detect us because I can see it from the window of the ship. And then I also could see the people responding to seeing the helicopter. So the regression was confusing because I could see the people on the beach yelling, "Look at the helicopter! Look at the helicopter! Look at the helicopter!" But I'm inside a ship when that was happening. So the 4 hours as the girl was swimming, as we were swimming across the lake, and it was a stupid idea for her to swim across the lake because she just had convulsions the day before.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yikes.
so she asked for permission to swim across the lake, and I didn't want to argue with her because I knew it was going to be an argument if I told her she couldn't swim across the lake.
There you go.
So I then I realized as I was heading back to talk to the guy I was talking to, I realized somebody needs to be out there with her. It's not smart sending her to swim across a lake after she spent several hours in an emergency room in a hospital.
Right.
So then I
Right.
decided to swim out with her. And then that was when she went into the convulsions about midpoint in the lake. And she just started splashing. But everything about that lake, I kept they they were stealing all my right. There were break-ins. I had to deal with a lot of surveillance, and so all my writings were being stolen from my filing cabinet. But I didn't know they were being stolen at the time. They would get into the house, they take certain papers, everything, because I was trying to make sense of what I called the lake event, because nothing in the memory made sense.
Right.
So I was rewriting it and rewriting it and rewriting it. And then when I went back to look at my writings, they were all gone. Because when the girl went into convulsions, I saw her going into convulsions. She was like 50 to 100 feet in front of me. So I don't know how I ended up getting her arm and then carrying her to the shore. So nothing made sense on that memory. And I kept questioning every bit, every piece of it. And then the fact that we went swimming around 4 or 5 o'clock and returned back around 10, 11 at night. So there was a lot of hours missing when we went swimming across the lake. It should have been at most a half hour. It should have been at most a half-hour swim, not not 6 hours.
Wow.
So they had taken her, and in the regression, they wanted her to drown. Uh, they wanted her to quietly drown in the lake. And in the regression, I was yelling at them to not that she wasn't to drown. Because they had done surgery on her earlier that morning. They had done some kind of surgery on her. And there was a lot of, I didn't realize it until with hypnosis, you have to know what questions to ask. It's like
Yeah.
doing the Tao, doing the if you don't ask the right question, you're not going to get the right information. So
Right.
in redoing a regression, I ended up I was thinking of we were looking to do it on the abduction that occurred in the afternoon, but we ended up getting the abduction that occurred in the morning, which I didn't even know there was missing time in the morning. One thing I also found out is there was many missing time and abductions that I didn't know about. And every now and then they would come up with the hypnosis. So you can have a missing time event and not be aware of it. Well, just as all the girls weren't aware of their missing time events.
Hmm.
As
Yeah,
a
and here,
child, when I didn't have a wristwatch, I probably had no idea what was going on. But as I got a wristwatch, the wristwatch would keep losing time. And then I sent it to the company to be fixed, and they return it. Nothing's wrong with it. I sent it. It was a Timex. I sent it a couple times. This wristwatch isn't work. It had a warranty on it at that time. I don't think they do
right.
now. And then I decided I left it on the dresser. When I left it on the dresser, it kept perfect time. But when I put it on, it would, and it always seemed to be a common loss of 6 and 7 minutes, which I could never figure out. But it would always, I go to check it, and it'll be 6 and 7 minutes off.
Hmm. Yeah, mine was always just plain stopping, or I don't remember. I don't recall. I thought it was just, I heard it was electrical stuff in my arm. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just stop wearing one.
Yeah, that was a common one they were telling everybody.
Yeah.
Uh, but the yeah, mine didn't. It didn't stop. It just had the wrong time. But
I
but
don't
I loved
recall. So,
wristwatches. I liked the convenience of a wristwatch, and
hmm,
it was very heartening to not to be able to wear a wristwatch.
yeah. Yeah, I stopped wearing one probably in sixth grade because I just couldn't get it to work.
Yeah.
So about
So
sixth grade is when I stopped.
yeah, I was given a wristwatch. My family gave me a wristwatch because I was the best one as far as keeping time. So the person that could tell the time the best got a wristwatch. And that was me. I could tell the time the best, so I got a wristwatch. Except it never
Never
kept
worked.
the correct time.
So you're
And I
telling
bought
them the
so
time and it was wrong all the time.
yeah. But the watch that did work for 2 years was a radio wristwatch,
Wow.
which it gets its signal. Uh, and then it lost an hour. And it was keeping perfect time, and then it just lost an hour. So but I was able to wear it a couple years.
Nice. Nice. Well, lucky for you, you got to wear one that long.
Yeah, yeah, it was especially in the airports. I was doing a lot of traveling. I went to East Africa, and then and the airports, finding a clock sometimes is tricky. So it made keeping track of the time in the flights good for that period of time.
Right. Wow.
Now, there was there was a lot of other phenomena. There was one woman who a light. I heard of two accounts of this where a light would follow her to school and follow her back from school. And this became a major problem for the school because uh, uh, I forget the people see everybody saw the light that would follow her in the sky to the school, and then it would follow her back. And
Did it
so
do anything to the school? Mess
no,
up any of
it
the
just
clocks?
followed her to school and followed her back. But there's so many, and then there was this light. There's so many different descriptions from abductees of what they were experiencing, and there's a lot of entities that are just telepathic. There's no like the one telling the girl where to get her money on the sand. That one I couldn't figure out. It would tell her to go to the beach. She wanted money to get ice cream. It would tell her where to go to the beach, and she'd dig up money in the beach. Uh, so there's so many different phenomena. And I mentioned the one where the coins are dropping from the ceiling,
Mhm.
uh, where also she was getting jewelry. But my impression was it was being stolen from somewhere and then sent somewhere else. Uh, and then
Thieves.
and then the voice would come through the speakers in the restaurant. Uh, there's a lot of interaction between the spiritual and the ETs.
Hmm.
A lot of most people that are dealing with the ETs. I found the best when I was working with the psychics and working with psychic development. I found the best people were the ones that were contactees. The best psychics were the ones that were contactees. Everybody that had very good psychic ability also had sightings.
Hmm. Well, I must be a good psychic then.
Uh, have you? I was telling one woman to try this out to clear her mind and ask a question and see what answer she got.
I've tried things like that and I haven't gotten anything. So maybe I haven't gotten
You got no
cleared my mind
answers.
enough. I get no answers. So
Okay.
that I know of. I mean, I could be getting something in a message in different ways that
Well,
I'm not catching.
yeah. Well, sometimes with telepathy, if you're concentrating on receiving, you lose the ability to receive. It seems like it comes spontaneously.
Okay.
So ask the question, then forget about it. And then it may come a half hour later.
Okay. I have asked questions. Just recently, I've asked a question and I got the answer. I did get the answer to this one like a couple days later, but then I forgot what the question was.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, I don't know what I know the answer now, but I don't know what the question was.
Yeah, so just sometime spontaneously put a question out that you want an answer to, and then don't wait for the answer. Just go about your normal business. And I think you might get a response within a half hour. But
Okay.
I'll often notice when I concentrated on receiving the answer, I never got an answer. But I
Okay.
found the answer would come later spontaneously.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
Awesome.
you've had no telepathy with the Greys. Well, we're assuming it's the Greys because
Right.
the Greys seem to have a very standard format, uh, and the missing time in a car you describe sounds like the Greys.
Yeah. Many different times. I've caught myself going on the wrong way on the ramp. So I was
Oh
going,
God.
yeah. Yeah. I got about halfway down, woke up and saw the arrow pointing towards me. I'm like, wait, no.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
pretty scary. Thank God there was no cars on the road at that time. But
yeah.
um, so I backed up and went on the frontage road there that I needed to be on. But yeah, it was scary. I've had some pretty scary
Yeah, well, it's strange.
times with that.
Uh, a lot of my in-car ones, I was driving, and then I was driving an hour later. Like the 16-hour one, I
Mm-hmm.
was driving to the beach, and then 16 hours later, I was driving back. But both times I disappeared while I was at the steering wheel.
Yeah.
The,
See,
the ones in the parked car I can understand, but the ones in the moving car, those were strange.
those are strange. Those are strange. Yeah, like the time I was telling you about when I left the house, and the next thing I know, after 30, 45-minute drive and multiple turns I had to take to get to work, I don't remember any of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't, it was really crazy. And then I just remember being back at work and talking with all the guys there and missing my morning meeting, missing everything up until that point.
huh. So you missed your meeting.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't recall being at the meeting. I don't recall. It was just like I locked my house and then boom, I was next to the guys at work.
yeah, yeah. I can relate to those.
Yeah. And I just put it to the idea that it was I worked late nights, so I went to work at like 1 in the morning. So I was just put it to I was tired. I was sleeping at the wheel. And now I'm kind of
Yeah,
looking at it differently.
which, yeah, yeah. Definitely, you should look at that differently because you weren't sleeping at the wheel. There was missing time occurring at the wheel.
That's what I'm
And
seeing now.
I tried to find all sorts of explanations for what was happening. Uh, I drove somewhere, got out of the car. I was trying to find all sorts of explanations for how I'm driving a car and suddenly an hour is gone.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And how I get to my destination.
Yeah. Well, there, when I was driving a motorcycle, a couple times I didn't wear the proper gear. It was a warm day, and then it dropped to 20 at night, and I had an hour ride home on a motorcycle,
Ouch.
and all I had on was a light jacket. And on some of those, I don't remember making the ride home. On numerous ones, I don't remember making the ride home. I remember nothing but getting on the motorcycle and then waking up in my bed.
Yeah.
But I know it
Yeah.
was 20 degrees on that hour ride, or that 35, 40-minute ride.
Yeah.
But
Very
I didn't
crazy.
miss not freezing on that ride.
I bet. Yeah. I bet. Yeah, this one here, it was just so weird because I had to walk a little bit to get into the building. And I, then I think, okay, what did everybody else see? I mean, how
Yeah,
did that come about with what were they seeing? Because I was talking to them when I came back. So I was
yeah,
like, what did they experience with me?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been trying to figure out what the onlookers would experience when I lost the hour on the road. Did a car disappear? Did they not notice that the car was disappeared?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have no explanation for what onlookers would have seen. But when I saw those pictures on YouTube of people disappearing, but it was interesting. The ones of people disappearing on YouTube look like they knew they were going to disappear. One of the guys is running, he stops, then he disappears. They have a lot of them
Mm,
disappearing people on YouTube.
wow. Well, I had a time that I was telling you about when I was going to work in February. I have a lady I carpool with, and we had like a 15, 20 second. time lapse thing that happened to us or me. Um, I, I just suddenly felt myself like in this like orb like form behind in the back seat. And I was struggling to form a single word. I knew I was in a conversation. I was struggling to form that word. And then next thing I know, I was like slammed back in my body. And my body to me felt like it was jello. It just kind of did one of these things.
Uh-huh.
And then I opened my eyes and we were coming upon the stop sign. And I'm like, whoa, that came up fast.
Huh.
But my passenger, since I was the driver, my passenger was telling me that I zoned out, that I started talking very, very slow, like slow motion. I was talking like
Huh.
that.
A time distortion.
Hmm. And then my driving was a little unlike my normal driving.
Huh. Yeah, it sounds like a time distortion.
So, yeah, I don't know what exactly happened, but later on, when we went to break, her and I was talking about that. And another lady was sitting at the table and her daughter was sitting with her, and her daughter's like, Mom, you're going crazy, you didn't see no lights in the sky, you're crazy and all of this other stuff. And I'm like, something happened.
Oh, so you'd had a conversation with her that you didn't remember?
Yeah, my with my carpool I was talking with her, but I don't remember the
Yeah.
conversation. But at work, with this other person talking to her daughter, she was saying that she was seeing these lights on the way in to work, and her daughter saying, "You're crazy, Mom. You didn't see no lights. You're crazy."
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, she saw lights. We had a weird experience. Something happened.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because in all the abductions I read about, people would be driving a car, uh, and then they'd see a UFO in the sky. And then they would arrive home about an hour or a half hour late. So I always assumed with the Greys that, so when the hypnotist told me that I was an abductee, I told her she was crazy. That, because I always assumed if you're going to be abducted, you're going to see the ship
Oh,
in your car, or you're going to see a light in the. Another person described it. They saw a light in the sky. They saw what looked like a UFO that was off in the distance, and they
mhm.
actually, the child described it totally different than the mother did. The child described seeing the bottom of the ship above the car. The mother described it as, oh yeah, we saw a light a distance off.
Hmm.
The child even drew a sketch of what the bottom of the ship looked like.
So he was abducted, but the parents were not.
The the mother, uh, so when the child tried to explain to the mother, I think they were both abducted, uh, or there was missing time in that one
Okay.
because so they both had to have been abducted or removed, and all the mother remembered was seeing the light a distance off. But the child
I've
drew the
seen that
picture
too.
of the ship.
Huh. Yeah, I've had
And then
that too where, oh, go ahead.
when the child tried to explain it to the mother, uh, she didn't believe him.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, mine was I was driving to work again and looking north, I saw five flashes of lights. And it was like flash, 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 flash. And then it was gone.
Huh.
White light, flashes of white light. And I thought it might be the airport nearby. And I'm like watching that the next few days. And it's like, no, because the airport lights go west to east.
Yeah.
This went east to west.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So it couldn't have been that. Plus, the airport lights, when they're spinning like that, they're solid. They're a solid light. It's not a
Yeah.
flashing
Yeah.
light. They're solid.
Yeah. And they're
And
not
I'm like,
blinking.
yeah. So I was like, well, I'm thinking I saw something there.
Yeah. Another time we saw this, my son was with, we saw this massive moving triangle. It was just above the tree line. And we were in awe. There was a car behind us. I don't know what he saw. And then the ship disappeared. Uh, it was massive and silent. It was total silence. And then I asked my son, what did he see? He saw the same thing, but coming from a different direction than I saw it coming from. So we both saw the
maybe,
same.
so maybe you saw it when it was coming in and he saw it going out. I don't know, just throwing it out.
Yeah, no, it just came one direction, and then it was gone. And then when I saw it, I thought I was in the driver's seat, but I was in the passenger seat.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of distortions that can occur.
Wow.
But when I saw another time, I saw this bright light just above the road. I don't know if anybody else saw it.
Yeah.
Uh, There's a very bright. It looked like the moon, uh, an extra large harvest moon, just above the road.
Oh,
And
wow.
and 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 the sightings bothered me. The ones that I saw, and they were usually just unusual objects, but they always, for some reason, they were they were like a trauma, especially that round bright light above the road. I was going to a meditation session after driving to it, and it interfered totally with my meditation.
Oh, somebody didn't want you to meditate, huh?
Yeah, no, it was. So I found them somewhat, the few that I saw, I found somewhat traumatic, but like they weren't UFOs. They were either a bright light, very bright light, uh, or there was one I used to see what looked like a pie plate, incredible distance away.
Hmm. Do you think it could be like an orb or something? Not necessarily
Um,
a UFO, but in like an orb?
it definitely was a orb that would be like 10 feet across, be a 10, 12 foot. Orbs are something, was when I was doing photographic work, we were getting a lot of orbs. Uh, and I had they would move erratically. There was one
Right.
orb I'll send you a picture of that was stationary. It was in the same place. I don't think I sent a picture of it.
I don't think that one came through, huh?
Yeah,
No.
it was an invisible orb. The camera would pick it up, but the eyes couldn't see it. I'll send you that one.
Okay. Yeah, that would be
And
great.
when and it had lines in it, had moving lines in it, had movement in it within it, and it would be in the same position, uh, in the same room all the time. It didn't move, and
Hmm.
so I used. I don't know if you're familiar with the Bushnell hunting cams.
Like the trail cams?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Those, if you ever wanted to set those up in your room, those pick up quite a bit. They picked
Okay.
they picked up a person walking through a wall. They picked up a person becoming two people.
Oh, wow.
So I was getting a lot of phenomena on those cameras. The only thing is with the teleportations, it blew the camera.
No.
So I ended up at 200 a camera, I ended up losing like four of them.
Oh, no.
So but it filmed the other anomalies very well, especially the in one group of abductions, we were the person would get out of their bed, remaining in their bed, walk around. We set cameras up in three rooms. Person would get out of the bed, and you could still see them in the bed, and then they'd walk around the house. Uh, that one we got quite a quite a few pictures of. Unfortunately, I didn't log my pictures. I got thousands of pictures, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to keep up with all the pictures that I was taking, so they never got adequately cataloged.
Yeah. I get you on that one. I have a lot of pictures too. It's like I still need to go through. Yeah.
Yeah, I had thousands, and so I was trying to edit them. I was trying to go through them, but there was too many. There'd
Yeah.
be there was one cartridge that had 16,000 pictures on it.
Hmm. Sounds like me. Yeah. That's crazy.
So
That's
you,
crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to see if I can grab me one of those trail cameras because I've been hearing a lot about it, especially when we go camping. I'd like to do it for the
yeah, but
Sasquatch.
just set it up in your bedroom.
Okay.
And they're a lot, they've gone down in price. They're around 79, $80 now.
Okay.
And they work
That's
pretty
better.
good.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll have to check into that one for sure.
And then Dolores Cannon, look at what she says about the Gray's abductions. I'm trying to think how I found that.
I'll
Uh,
do a search on YouTube and
yeah,
see what we
yeah.
can come
She
up
does,
with.
that's right. She does a lot of speaking.
Yeah.
But just look at one on her talking about ETs because she does a lot on the Greys, and she talks about it being interdimensional, totally interdimensional,
Okay.
and out of the time realm.
Yeah. I know something was going on with me.
Yeah, no, it's. I didn't have an understanding until I didn't start to put things together until 2000. All the things that were going on, I had no idea of. All I knew was the blackouts. I couldn't do anything about it. I didn't know how to do anything about it. The girls didn't seem to know anything about it. Uh, one woman said she felt strange. She couldn't understand what she felt. Uh, so at one point, I thought, did something happen between me and this young woman that she doesn't remember? I had all sorts of different
Oh
theories.
yeah.
Did I do
Yeah.
something I didn't remember? Did I do something to her? But
Right.
in most of them, the Greys took them, put an embryo in them, brought them back, and then took them again another time to remove the fetus.
I've
And
heard that happening.
yeah, so that's what happened to most of the girls that were, to at least half of the girls that were taken with me.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, the only one that I knew something happened is when the Grays were in my room. But outside of that, I had no idea what was going on, except for sleeping at the wheel or
So how did you handle the Greys in your room?
I've
Describe
heard
that.
I heard a cat outside my window. I was in an apartment by myself, um, and on the third floor.
Okay.
I heard this cat outside, and then I heard what to me sounded like fireworks going off in the big dumpsters. And then I remember opening my eyes, and one was outside my window, and three at the end of my bed, one at the side of my bed, and one in my closet. I remember trying to move my left hand. I was, um, I could move my wrist and my fingers and all, but that was it.
Okay. So yeah, I had movement with my eyes in one, but
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah. And I remember screaming like telepathically. It was like I was screaming, but I wasn't screaming. But in my head, I was screaming, call mom.
Okay. Okay. And
But
then,
yeah, and I had the phone right here next to my head. So I was trying with my left hand to reach for the phone and I couldn't. But I knew my hand was moving, but not the rest of my body.
so then what happened afterwards?
Next thing I knew, I was getting up the next morning.
Yeah. Yeah. That would make sense.
Yeah.
But that definitely identifies them as the Greys.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I felt that later on, looking back and kind of looking at things, I think they were there protecting me since
Yeah, that's come
it
up
was actual
with
gunshots or
another
something.
report I got. Uh, this person felt something horrible coming,
Mm.
and and uh, because I was taken by a wrong group once, and it took me a while to put that memory together. Uh, they took me into this ship, and then the Greys ship arrived, and then the Greys hailed it. I thought it was a dream when it occurred. I didn't realize it was real. They hailed it with shooting sparks in the sky, and then I was back in my bed.
Mm.
So and then with my son, or with this person, they had this horrible feeling of something, and so he put out help, uh, a cry of help, and then the Greys arrived and they said you did the right thing.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So then after that happened, many years later, I moved into my current home and I felt them in my bedroom twice and in the shower once.
uh,
And then I saw a shadow in my bedroom. And at that point, I knew enough that I needed to sage my home and everything. So I saged and I haven't seen them or felt them since,
huh.
except for,
Yeah,
driving to work and
The Greys can be quite protective. Uh, have you had accidents that you should have been injured in but weren't injured in?
no.
Car accidents or falling or something where you expected to be injured and they've they've actually made my car disappear. Uh, I fell asleep in the car and I was headed for the wheels of an 18 wheeler,
Ew.
and I figured I was dead. And the next I know, I'm further up on the road, nothing around. So they had to move me from where I would have collided with the truck. There wasn't even a brake mark where I would have collided with the truck.
Mm. Wow.
Uh, so there's been a couple car accidents that it seemed like they have protected me from.
I've been protected from an accident in um before I hit there. So it wasn't quite like yours, but I was at a stoplight and I was trying to go straight, and diagonal from me there was a gas station. and the light was red, so I'm stopped. And I kept hearing this voice saying, "Get gas." And we argued for the whole cycle, So, and there was like, "Okay, I'm done. I'm done arguing with you." And they took my car and put it into the turning lane. Mind you, I have a stick. So how they moved my car,
Okay, so you experienced them moving your car.
yeah,
Yeah.
they moved my car into the turning lane. And I was like, I guess I'm getting gas. Well, making a longer story shorter, I get right next to my work. There's my work, there's like a creek, and then the road I was coming up on. So I get to this point here, and sure enough, an accident had happened, and some person was on a gurney, and I don't know if they were covered up or if it was just cold, and I don't know what happened, but I had to go 10 minutes out of my way to get across that little bridge to my
Okay. Was
building.
the timing of that accident, that was a timing of that you could have possibly been in that location? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's the kind of stuff I've experienced.
Yeah, I really say that was definitely God's hands
That was the
in that
Grays.
one. The grays.
Yeah,
It was
I blame.
somebody.
Yeah, yeah. It's like some kind of miracle that prevents you from an injury.
Right.
Yeah, and then I had a motorcycle accident uh that didn't go the way it was supposed to have gone.
Oh,
Uh, but yeah, it seems like uh they can do things with moving you with vehicles. Like I should have hit that truck, but next I know I'm about a mile away going straight on the highway.
isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's so crazy. It's just that one still kind of blows my mind. It's like the car just moved. It just moved on its own.
Yeah.
it just it just moved. And
I think it
yeah,
was
it's crazy.
repositioned.
Maybe.
Yeah, the way Dolores Cannon describes it, I keep getting, yeah, Dolores Cannon. I don't know why I get her mixed up with Dolores Claiborne, but the way she describes it, it's a dimensional move.
So they just kind of picked the car up and moved it, kind of type
They
thing.
take it, they take it out of the dimension and they put it back in the dimension.
Oh.
That's kind of how she describes it. Uh, she totally explained how
Hmm.
I was trying to logically explain the Gray's abductions. She describes it as interdimensional moving,
Okay.
but what she had to say, I thought was, and I thought what she had to say on the abduction phenomenon was phenomenal. It was beyond logic, which makes sense. It didn't
Right.
follow any kind of logic, but it gave an explanation. She said she described it as you're out and then you're in.
Yeah.
I was trying
Yeah.
to I was trying to find all sorts of logical explanations for how they took me from a car, how the ones when the car was stopped, those are easy to understand. A ship would land in the vicinity of the car, and then they'd take me out of the car and the girl out of the car, and then put us into the ship, and then return us back to the car, back to the ship. But whether the ship stayed there or not, my impression was the ship may have left and then returned. Because you keep thinking somebody's going to see something. There's
Yeah,
this one guy that was describing, he's on the side of the road being abducted. There's a UFO in front of him. His car is here. There's cars going by him left and right.
and yeah, somebody
And he's
has to see
wondering,
something.
didn't didn't they see something? Didn't they see the UFO on the side of the road? Didn't they see the ETs? And then there was some other sightings that were interesting. people were describing like a ship passing over a town, over a group of towns, a very
Uh-huh.
large ship. It wouldn't be seen over all the towns, it would be seen over some of the towns. So it was almost like, uh, was the ship visible by certain people, not visible by other people?
And isn't it like their vibration also? So, like maybe those that have the higher vibration can actually see the ships, and those that aren't as high don't?
That would make sense. Yeah, the vibrations. Because the vibrations play. It took me a while to realize the difference in the harmonic vibrations because when I was working with this writer on my first book, he was explaining higher frequencies.
Mhm.
Higher frequency beings are coming into this world to raise the entire frequency. To me, that made no sense. But then when I eventually equated the frequencies to the lower frequencies being anger, fear, uh, uh, and then the higher frequencies being calm, quiet, collective, uh, then I understood better what he meant by they were coming to Earth to raise the frequencies for all of Earth.
Mhm. Right, right. Wow. Well, I am sure we can go on for hours and hours.
But I think we got a good description to put together.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I
I
really
appreciate the
appreciate your
opportunity.
time. Absolutely. Absolutely. I had a great time listening to all of this. It always fascinates me. That's why I do this. Uh,
Yeah, but definitely read what Dolores Cannon, and she gets into the multidimensional and coexistent dimensions, and
okay.
which I've never been able to understand her stuff, but it made sense in dealing with the Gray's abductions.
Okay.
All right, you
Absolutely.
take care.
All right. You take care. Thank you so much for being on the show.
All
Appreciate
right,
it. All right. And if anyone out there has a story you would like to share, email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com and we will see what we can do getting you on the show. All right. Let's talk to everybody next time. Bye.
goodbye.